you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. It's Voss here from theChrisVossShow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, there are latest things that makes official. Welcome to the big show. As always, we bring you the most smartest minds, the most brilliant stories on the show. Stories are the owner's manual to life, as we like to say. And, of course, people will find entertainment in them. They find great learning, find great education. It's a great escape sometimes, and all those good stuff. So always refer the show to your family, friends, and relatives. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, Facebook.com/Chris Voss, YouTube.com/Chris Voss, where it was just announced today we hit 25 million views over there on the YouTube, on top of the millions of downloads we have with the Chris Voss Show podcast. So congratulations to us, I guess. I don't know. 25 million seems small these days when it comes to viralness. Anyway, guys, we have an amazing young man on the show. We're going to be talking about his newest novel that's out December 2nd, 2025. Hope and Destiny, a novel, is out. You can pre-order it now, actually, and all that good stuff. Natt och Dag is on the show with us today. We're going to be talking to him about his book and all of his insights and some of the things he's writing about. He's written several different novels, been very popular, et cetera, et cetera. Welcome to the show, Mr. Dog. How are you?
I am fine. I was a little bit apprehensive at the intro, talking about brain power and so forth, but you calling me a young man made it so much better.
We work up everybody on the show to make them feel good. We want our guests. We want our guests to glow.
Perfect.
So give us any .coms. Where do you want people to find you on the interwebs to get to know you better?
I do not exist on the internet, and I can be found playing with my children at the table tennis venue close to where I am in Stockholm, Sweden.
You mean you have a life?
Love to see you there.
You mean you have a life? You're not sitting there looking at your phone all day long?
It's hard to avoid, but at least I'm not looking at my own social media.
Where are you ever going to become a narcissist with that sort of behavior?
I had the best of genes from the start.
I like the fact that you're you're focusing on your family and your children as opposed to I see so many people looking at their phones, and like I was out shooting yesterday and there was some kid walking around without a shirt, and I'm on a street corner shooting people on a street corner where cars are blasting by, and there's just a kid wandering around with their shirt off, and I'm like, "Where's your parents?" And they were over in the corner. Anyway, so
it's
give us
over here, unfortunately.
Is it really?
Not maybe shirt off this time of year, but still, the problem is over here too.
Well, it's a dopamine addiction sort of issue. I think we need to open some dopamine clinics. But let's talk about other forms of media people can get hooked on that people love. Reading books. Tell us about your new book, Hope and Destiny.
The story behind my hard to pronounce and horrible to use abroad last name, which is Natt och Dag. It means, in Swedish, it actually means night and day. It's a very old noble family from the 13th century.
Wow.
The story in my family, ever since I was a small boy, you hear these whispers saying, there's a killer in the family.
Oh.
Yeah, and he was an axe murderer, and he killed the most famous man in Sweden. And he
really?
did it in the year 1436.
I remember that, 1436.
So this story has been around all my life. It's our main claim to fame, I would say. We're dirt poor since
we
the end of the 17th century. Yeah, but he was famous,
Yeah. You make any money off it that you can inherit down to you?
Unfortunately not. My family sat on perhaps the largest fortune ever amassed in Swedish history until one guy inherited all of it at the very end of the 17th century. And when he died, there was nothing but debts left.
Oh,
so
wow.
he had a wild ride.
You should sue that guy. You should sue that guy.
So now I have to write books and so forth to eke it in.
My family loves genealogy, and so they're always like, hey, you had like a king there back in 1001 or something, who was part of our lineage. And I'm like, did he leave me any money? And they're like, no. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck. But no,
where was this king?
I don't know. I'm just it's always funny how when people either go back in genealogy, they try to find the rich, successful people, or like what's that thing that people do where you die and then you get reincarnation. You know, the reincarnation people.
Oh, yeah.
They're always like they're never a peasant in 1700s or something. They're always like a king or a queen or something.
There are many like patients in asylums who claim to have been Napoleon in a former life, but very few who claim to have been like a pauper with leprosy.
Yeah, which more likely was possible. But, besides, I was Napoleon in my previous life. We all know that.
Sorry.
Is this story like historical fiction that you've told in the book about this story from your families?
Yeah. I try to make. I mean, I'm a novelist, so I'm in show business. But I try to take a look at that story that's been around as long as I can remember, and try to see if there's a story there worthy of retelling in a fictional form. And I looked at the facts around this murder, which, I mean, a lot of the details are well known, but what remains unknown is the motive to the murder. And,
murder, you say?
And historians, they can't speculate. That's like a big cardinal fault of theirs. So, but as a novelist, that's my prerogative. So I can try to connect the dots any way that I feel fit, and that's what I try to do.
So, give us a rundown on who these characters are. Tell us about some of the characters, if you would, that are in the story.
Yeah. So in the early 14th century, the Black Death has more or less ravaged Europe, killing about half of the entire population. Sweden has become like a vassal state to Denmark. And the Danish queen has put a lot of her own knights in the castles. So you have kind of a Robin Hood-esque situation where they are foreigners who do whatever they can to make a living and earn a fortune off the poor Swedish population. At the same time, the Swedish nobility are severely pissed off that they are not the ones sitting in the castles exploiting the people anymore. Among them, we find my ancestors. So a rebellion breaks out, a peasant rebellion who's led by a guy called Engelbrekt. And my ancestor eventually murders this guy with an axe.
Oh, wow.
After having been one of his closest associates. Therein lies the mystery. What went wrong?
What went wrong? And so why did they get the axe? I mean, sometimes that's the only way you can break up with people. I'm sorry. No, I'm just teasing. People, don't write me. Don't do that. And so you tell the story. I mean, you must it sounds like maybe over the ages, you had quite the big family and lots of cousins. Was that kind of how your family worked, where you're like, yeah, that person's a cousin of mine? Hundreds of years of cousins, right?
Back in the day, I mean, back in the dark ages, it was a clan society.
Oh, really?
So you have your families, your noble families, which has the crest of arms. In our case, for your viewing pleasure, looks like this.
Okay, cool.
The name has night and day became the name eventually.
Wow.
So you would have that on your shield, and everybody belonging to that family will do their best to sort of get as close to the throne as possible.
There you go. It looks like somebody built it this is on the cover of the book. Game of Thrones without dragons was the review they gave to your book, Hope and Destiny.
It feels like that blurb goes with any kind of historical fiction these days that doesn't have dragons, but I'll take it.
Sure, yeah. I suppose you could put Game of Thrones.
I'm a fan of George R. Martin. I'm one of these guys quite impatiently waiting for the final installments. Actually,
a lot of people are, aren't they?
Funnily enough, my first publisher was also George R. Martin's publisher, and
really?
He was hosting George here in Sweden And he hadn't really done his homework on where George was at the moment. So he started the conversation by saying, "So when is your next book out?" And the sort of it went very icy from there. But George, in his turn, has been very vocal about being inspired by a series of French novels written by a guy called Maurice Drouin, who was a member of the French Academy.
Oh, yeah, Maurice.
And he wrote, I think, a 7-part series on the royal houses of France when they tried to compete for power. They were cutthroat bitches, one and all.
Wow.
So he was inspired by that, for sure. Of course, none of us can escape the cultural impact of his work.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
But no dragons, alas.
No dragons, nonetheless. Now, do you see this as a series coming up? Is there going to be more? We'll talk about your series that you have here in a second. But do you see this book launching into a series?
I signed a 2-book contract, and I finished the sequel, which is, to my mind, it's the end of the story about these characters in that day and age. But I plan on perhaps continuing the series somewhere else in time. I've always been very envious when I find a writer who's found, who's created a universe where they can do like whatever the hell they want. And I would like to do that. So I'll probably change the setting.
Well, that'll be nice. Now, you may have done that in your other books. Tell us about the, I believe these are a series, aren't they? The 1793 Wolf and the Watchman, a trilogy.
Yeah.
Tell us about this.
Yeah, it's a trilogy of more or less like detective fiction set in late 18th century Stockholm, which was like a period of time that fascinated me. I mean, the first one was my first published novel, so that's the life-changing one, when your lifelong dream of being a writer finally sort of came true after a 5-year period of being rejected.
I don't mean to laugh, but I mean, it's interesting what you go through when you get rejected for a book, and then you finally hit it, and you get to kind of laugh at all the people who rejected you and be like, "Showed you, I told you I was going to be good."
I don't really feel that at all, actually, because it was a blessing in disguise, really. Because, of course, I mean, I made a living as a freelance magazine journalist doing like celebrity interviews and stuff. So I had made my living from writing for 15 years before actually trying to do something. And of course, there's part of you that when you're finished with that first draft, that's good enough to send away to a publisher. Some little monster inside you are thinking, wow, this is perfect. This is just a flawless diamond. Could not possibly be improved upon. I think some editor may change a comma or two, maybe, and I'll even take that fight.
No.
And then you get, in Sweden, you get the sort of auto rejection. You submit your manuscript. 3 months after that, you will get... 3 months after that, to the second, you will get an email saying, well, thank you for your interest. No thanks.
Wow.
Please note that this email cannot be replied to.
Yeah.
And then you get to try again. And first you need to read your stuff, trying to sort of understand what was wrong and what you could do better. So I tried, and it took another year.
Wow.
And then I sent it out again, and I got the better kind of rejection. That is when the publishing houses have some poor schmucks that they employ to actually read manuscript en masse. So some poor guy actually had to read the whole second draft and submit a report. And even though they choose to reject it, they will show you the courtesy of giving you that report. So you will have your first. It's a huge favor.
Yeah. Because then you kind
professional
of know what, okay, maybe these are some things I can work on. This is a good lesson for writers.
The guy could be wrong, of course, but you need to, it's a huge favor, nonetheless.
Yeah.
So I had quite a few of those.
Yeah.
And they were all in agreement as to what were
Oh,
the
really?
problems.
There was a consistent pattern you saw.
Yeah. Which made it all the more easy for me.
And so And so you feel it helped shape you, kind of helped hone you, kind of like, I always use the example of the blacksmith and the anvil, so, where you temper steel, you hammer on it to make it stronger. And, that's a good lesson for life and a good lesson for authors out there. I've had a number of authors like yourself on the show that have gained success. But, they went through those failures. They went through those droughts where they were like, should I really be an author? Do I really have it? Everyone's rejecting me. And it made their work better. And, sometimes that's the necessary thing that helps shape us into better people or better, at our wares, what we're trying to do, that hammer and the anvil.
It's impossible to do a rewrite of something you've written without making it better, basically. And this whole ordeal showed me the difference between the first draft and the seventh draft, which was eventually what made it out 5 years later. And I'm so grateful that it wasn't the first draft that came out. So,
and that's a great lesson, because we have a lot of aspiring authors that listen to the show and people that are trying to figure out how did you know when did you start writing, even in maybe your youth, when did you start writing, and when did you kind of know that this was something you wanted to turn into a career?
I have the same sob story as every author that I've ever met, which is that I was a lonely little kid who felt, different.
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of free time on my hands. There weren't cell phones around back then, so people like you and I had to resort to different measures to further the passage of time. Reading was one of them.
Yeah.
So I turned to books.
Sorry to interrupt you, but what were some of your favorite authors and genres that you got into early?
This was like the Lord of the Rings era, that I think was the big one for me I was like 10 or 11 or something when I first. And I remember my parents took me to Greece for a vacation. And in this period, it was a completely unknown fact that there's a connection between skin cancer and the rays of the sun. In Sweden, it's huge status to have a tan because we get very little sunlight up here. So as a kid, you would sort of be ushered out into the sun. You need to look like a gingerbread man when we come home. Otherwise, the neighbors will, question whether we even went to Greece. And all I wanted to do was finish The Return of the King, which is the final part of The Lord of the Rings. So I was out in the sun finishing this, and I got burned to a crisp. And I had this, I had this horrible fever where I had to lie shivering in my hotel room. And it was the greatest reading experience of my life, because I was like hallucinating that whole world.
Wow.
As I read. But anyway.
Sounds like you got, what is it called? Sunstroke? I've had that before.
Yeah.
Oh, that's hell
being
right
in Las
there.
Vegas, you should know
all about
it.
I got as a kid on my dad's job site. I was out in the sun too much, and I got sunstroke, and I've had it, I think one other time when I was a kid, and wow, it was bad, man. It was like the worst. Yeah. Yes, you got the spins, I think.
Yeah.
It was like being drunk.
Yeah.
Just not as fun. I don't know.
Indeed.
Yeah, but I know those hallucinations are like. I'll never forget the sunstroke, man. I was spinning out. I was getting the spins really bad.
You should have read something really good.
Yeah.
Profited of it. But
drop some.
It wasn't the finest hour of my parents right there. But
drop some edibles. That's how my family was too. We lived in SoCal, and so there was kind of like this initiation process to the summer and going to the beach all summer long. Because when we got out of school, we had this camper VW van, and so my mom, because we were two boys driving her crazy, we would go down to the beach in Santa Monica and play on the beach, and she would, we could always change, and she could cook stuff in the little camper thing there, and every summer we would do this initiation where we go down and get burnt to a crisp, and that would turn into the summer tan. But we'd have those 3 days of agony where your skin's peeling and you're glowing in the dark.
Kids these days will never know that wonderful feeling.
Oh yeah, skin cancer. It's whatever. Anyway, so you when did you finally realize this was kind of like your thing? You were like,
Right then and there, I felt from reading it sort of cured me of loneliness. I would say I felt that I had a very, very intimate relationship with all these men and women who were nowhere near my age, damn many of them. But it was a real relationship. I can hear their voices in my head by reading what they had written. So from a very early age, it was obvious to me that being a writer is for sure the best thing you could ever aspire to be. You can be a company to somebody who has none.
yeah.
So I wanted that from being a reader. But it took me, I had nothing to write about. So it took me many, many decades to finally figure out what I wanted to write.
Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. Most people don't find what they want to do in life or what to do with their life. So, yeah, pretty amazing. And then, so you in this series that you have that you wrote, the 1793, 1794, 1795. And is this kind of a similar sort of genre? Where did you get the story from in this book, The Wolf and the Watchman?
When I finally started thinking to myself that if I'm ever to be a writer, I think the time is now. I was married, but we were thinking about starting a family, starting to try for it. So I thought that, feasibly after having children, time will be scarce, and this would be something that I had to do on, evenings and weekends. So I felt time was short. I basically took a good look at all of the books that I had really fallen in love with in my lifetime and tried to think if there's something similar that I could try. And among those, there's a book called The Name of the Rose by an Italian gentleman called Umberto Eco. It's also it's made into a kick-ass movie with Sean Connery. Name of the Rose, possibly his last really good movie, actually. But it's a medieval, it's a genre mix. So it's a murder mystery, but it's set in a monastery in, I think, 12th or 13th century. And to me, I read it multiple times, but I remember reading it as a child, and it was a roller coaster ride of a mystery. Loved it. And then I read it as an adult, and I couldn't believe how much history he had managed to sort of layer into that. And I was amazed that these two dimensions could coexist without one taking the upper hand. So
I'll have to check this movie out. I never saw it before. The Name of the Rose with Sean Connery.
It's really good. It's actually Christian Slater's first movie.
Yeah, I was just looking down the list here.
And he has a nude scene in that. Since he's only 17, I think, at the time, it's technically child pornography. But,
what the hell?
Good movie all the same.
I'm not going to do the jokes on that. Ron Perlman was also in the movie. Michael Longsdale. I think I know who that is.
Ron Perlman, who was completely unknown back then, but became Hellboy and so forth. So it's basically everybody who's. I'm not disrespecting Mr. Perlman here, but everybody who had a very kind of peculiar face got cast in that movie.
Wow, I love character.
I wanted to do the same.
I think they're called character faces.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I also wanted to do, mix something historical, and I tried to sort of render the historical part as accurate as possible with a murder mystery.
Murder, you say?
Murder.
I love that.
People get excited about that for some weird
murder, reason. You say?
You have a nice voice for that. I have goosebumps.
Yeah, I'm ripping off the guy from 48 Hours or whatever, the murder mystery guy, he always does that bit where he's like, murder. Murder, you say? I can't do it as good as he does, but it's fun. Anyway, so as we go out, give people a final pitch out to order up your book and all that good stuff wherever fine books are sold.
Well, I mean, these books are supposed to be historically accurate, and I've taken, great work to sort of get the details right. But we're in show business here, so you don't need to worry about that, and you don't need to give. Yeah, you don't need to give a shit about Swedish history. If it's not entertaining, it has no, to exist. So I'm aiming for a roller coaster ride full of love and hate and death and murder. You say
murder. You say murder. Yeah, I just love that guy's voice and the way he pronounces it. I forget what it's on. It's some murder mystery TV show here in America. But yeah, this should be fun. And you've got an established base that already loves your other works and your other books, so I'm sure they're going to enjoy eating up the new novel. It's called Hope and Destiny, out December 2nd, folks. You can pre-order it here in America, and all that good stuff available in all the formats, as it were. Thank you, Mr. Dog, for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss1 on the TikTokity and all those crazy places. The internet. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you guys next time. And that should have us out.